of it. I'm with Dave Edwards, a man I'd consider an industry friend and Chief Executive of the Air Charter Association. Dave, how are your members managing throughout this time? What's the sense?
It's a challenging time. I mean, I wish any of us had an idea of what's happening next, really. If you go back 10 years ago, we learned an awful lot from the last, certainly the crash and the recession that followed. This one is totally different. It's not a lack of willingness to travel, it's just a lack of being able to travel. In terms of the membership, it's split 50-50. I mean, those who are involved in the cargo sector are having a really good time. And a really important time. It's not just about being good. You know, they're performing vital tasks for all of us on a daily basis now. From the charter side, on the passenger side, there's obviously been a lot of repatriation flights, which is again vital to get people home, back to the loved ones for such a strange time. The charter side, on the executive front, business aviation, been hit fairly hard. I think it's there's enough statistics out there these days from the likes of Winks to say that we are falling off the edge of a cliff, and so that's again a challenge for all of us, really. Our membership isn't just large companies with huge bank balances. It's a broad spread of very large PLCs, but it's also a lot of sort of one-man band kind of businesses as well. And they're getting some really challenging times coming up. So we're monitoring closely what the government in the UK are coming up with, especially is where a lot of our members are based. Just to see what help's available to them, and lobbying as well for the larger members as well, just to see how the industry can get supported by the government at this time. It's uncharted territory, isn't it? That's the challenge for us all.
What are some of the things that you've been experiencing that's kind of lifting your spirits through this time on a personal level?
I think as we head into week 3, it's slightly more challenging. We're looking for new ways of working, I guess. This is, it is so uncharted. Like, how do you go from a position of going into an office every day, having that social interaction with people in the office? That's gone. It's actually been replaced, I think, by things like video conferencing. We're spending an awful lot more time having virtual parties and virtual drinking sessions, I guess, of an evening. I've done more pub quizzes over the past couple of weeks than I've done in my life. And it's just, there's an upside to every downside, isn't there? Yes, it's weird from a work point of view, but from a social point of view, I'm seeing friends I haven't seen in probably 10 years almost online regularly. So yeah, I think, got to look for the bits of sunshine around every cloud, haven't you?
However, one of the senses I'm getting is that there's a real sense of community emerging. You referred to the charter company, the cargo companies bringing vital supplies. But just, we were talking beforehand, you were saying even on a personal level, seeing people around in your home community that you didn't really say other than a nod hello, you're now having socially distant conversations with that are perhaps more close than ever would have been, in the content.
I live in the southeast of England. It's that unwritten rule: we're not supposed to talk to anyone in the street unless we know them from somewhere else. A lot more kind of a sense of community spirit coming out of this, which is great, because it's been missing for a long time, I think. Within the industry as well, just seeing some good positive signs, sort of in those events that brokers and operators would come into a head-to-head argument over, whether it was things like cancellation fees and those kind of fairly contentious issues. There's a lot more community spirit about that as well, a lot more give and take and open discussion happening. So hopefully, if one good thing is coming out of this, it's that.
Would you want to mention anything about Dubai, how it was there? Because I haven't spoken to anyone in the Middle East yet. What was the sense there as you obviously had to leave and come back here quite quickly?
Yeah, I was out there doing some work. I left fairly short notice. There was a closure of the borders because of COVID, trying to stop the spread of it any further than it had. It's been well handled as far as I saw in the UAE. Certainly a low level of cases. It's growing at the same kind of rate as we've seen in the rest of the Western world, kind of thing. But certainly their approach to it, they have lockdowns now overnight, so there's a curfew between, I think, 8 and 6, so people aren't travelling. And you've got to do these things effectively, haven't you? Every time Boris Johnson has stood up, he's tried to make the point, like, this isn't just for our fun. We're not trying to do something. We have to do this. Otherwise, this won't be a short-term problem. This will go on for a year. And they're certainly going about it in I think, the right way. Definitely having an impact in aviation. I mean, Emirates is all but grounded now, I think. The airports are very much closed. Certainly, there's challenges there. I don't see this, as you say, I don't see this being a 3-week hiatus. I think there's a long haul to this. But the thing that is kind of really important to me is that the governments around the world realise how important aviation is to the world. I'm sure that kind of this period will make people identify that video conferencing isn't quite the sort of social pariah that it was. It is a good way of maybe getting rid of some of those journeys. But let's not forget that what business aviation especially does is to drive investment into places that don't have regular aviation connections. So we don't need that to be left out to dry. We need the airports there. We need the infrastructure. We have to sustain it during this period of unprecedented strangeness, so that when it comes back, it will come back at a rate that was a lot quicker than the way it went away. The minute the lockdowns and the travel restrictions are gone, business aviation will go back to 100% almost overnight. I can't see it doing anything less than that. But for that to happen, we need the airports to be secured. We need them to be sustained during this period where they've suddenly gone down to 10% of the movements that they had. We need air charter brokers to be looked after in the best ways. And remember, as I said, these are small firms. They're not all large, huge organisations with deep pockets of shareholders to go to. So this is a completely different time for the world. And for once, we need to look a little bit more into our own selves, I guess, in how we sustain all of these businesses, so that every industry, not just aviation, every industry is in a good place to restart after this enforced hiatus for all.